Hello, good morning. In the last video lesson, we have completed the microsporogenesis and started the female reproductive part of the flower. In that, now we come to the structure of megasporangium, that is known as ovule. The ovule is stalked and is attached to the placenta by means of a stalk called funicle. So, funicle is the structure by which ovule is attached with the placenta, that is the wall of ovary. The junction between an ovule and a funicle is called hilum. Sometimes the funicle extends beyond the hilum to form a ridge called raphe. The ovule is surrounded by one or two protective multicellular integuments, outer and inner integuments. Integuments encircles the ovule entirely except at the tip, resulting in a small opening called micropyle, where the integuments are not fused together, a small opening left out, that is the micropyle. The basal part of an ovule opposite to the micropyle is called chalaza, means against the chalaza is the micropyle and vice versa. The cells with high are abundant reserve food material enclosed within integument is called nucellus. The female gametophyte located within the nucellus is called an embryo sac. So, that much we have finished in the last video lesson. Now, we come to the megasporogenesis. The process of formation of haploid megaspore from the diploid megaspore mother cell MMC is called megasporogenesis. There we have seen PMC, pollen mother cell, and here it is the megaspore mother cell. In the micropylar region, the nucleus contains cells with dense cytoplasm and prominent nucleus, which is differentiated into a single megaspore mother cell MMC. Remember, in the microsporangium there were the large number of microspore mother cell, and here only single megaspore mother cell is available. Actually, it is one of the hypodermal cell which behaves as the MMC, have the distinct nucleus and dense cytoplasm. Megaspore mother cell is diploid and undergoes meiosis. MMC first divides transversally into two cells called dyad. These two cells again divide transversally. As a result, a linear row of 4 haploid cells is produced, which is called megaspore tetrad or linear tetrad. Remember, these are the two sets of division of meiosis. Meiosis first and meiosis second. Meiosis first results into 2 cells and meiosis second results into 4 daughter cells. And these 4 daughter cells are arranged one over the other in tier form. Out of these 4 megaspores, only one remains functional while the other 3 degenerates. The one functional megaspore develops into the female gametophyte, that is called as the embryo sac 2, This is called monosporic development of female gametophyte. As a typical type in almost 60% plants, this flowering plants, this type of development is observed. Means out of 4, only one megaspore will participate into the function. Remaining 3 degenerates. The remaining megaspore increase. Remaining megaspore, that is the left out one, increase in size and covers almost full part of the nucellus. Means out of 4, 3 degenerated and remaining one will grow in size, start growing in the size within the nucellus. The nucleus of megaspore divides by, the nucleus of megaspore divides by 3 consecutive mitotic divisions. 3 consecutive mitotic division means 1, then second division, then third division. So after first division, 2 nuclei are formed. After second division, 4 nuclei are formed. After third division, 8 nuclei are formed from the single nucleus. So the megaspore nucleus gives rise the 8 nucleate structure, 8 nuclei within the megaspore. These nuclei show orientation, that means they reorganize. That is, out of the 8, 3 nuclei move to micropylar end, 3 move to the chalazal end, and 2 remains in the center of the cell and called as polar nuclei. The nuclei at the chalazal end get surrounded by a little cytoplasm and a separate wall to form antipodal cells. Means the chalazal end nuclei, they are covered with a little cytoplasm and cell wall. So thus 3 nuclei are there, so thus 3 antipodal cells are formed at the chalazal end. Towards the micropylar end, the nuclei too get surrounded by cytoplasm and separate cell wall, of which the central large cell is egg cell and female gamete is formed. The adjoining 2 cells are called synergids, which have finger-like projections called filiform apparatus within it. These filiform apparatus help pollen tube to locate egg cell during fertilization. The egg cell along with synergids is called as egg apparatus. Synergids are helping in nature, especially for fertilization. No other role has been noticed for these synergists. The embryo sac or female gametophyte is now 7 celled and 8 nucleate structure. Means overall there are the 8 nuclei and 7 celled. Let us calculate how they are the only 7 cells. 3 antipodal cells, 1 egg cell, 2 synergids. So total 6. And in large central cell, 2 nuclei, that they are called as polar nuclei, together makes the 8 nuclei and cells 7 only. The central large cell, egg cell, synergids, antipodal cells. You can see in this slide how one of the new cell in the nucellus look more prominent than the other because of the dense cytoplasm and distinct nucleus. Now this megaspore mother cell divides meiotically to form a tier of 4 cells. Out of these 4, 3 degenerates and 1 persists. One grows in size from the embryo sac. Simultaneously, the nucleus also divided by 3 consecutive mitosis. Remember it, here it is now mitosis. Once chromosome numbers are reduced by meiosis, cannot be further re-reduced. So, after that megaspore formation, the remaining cell nuclear divisions are mitotic only. So, the picture C shows the mature embryo sac with 3 antipodal cells, 2 synergids and egg cell, 2 polar nuclei at the center of the large cell. Now we come to the another important phenomenon in the sexual reproduction of flowering plant is pollination. The term is not new for you. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a pistil is termed as pollination. There are the 3 types of pollinations. One autogamy, second is deuterogamy, third is the xenogamy or allogamy. The transfer of pollen grains is from anther to stigma of the same flower. For example, in pea and many more, where maximum possibility is of the same pollen reaching the stigma of the same flower. It is also called as self-pollination. You might be remembering in class 10th we have studied about the self-pollination and cross-pollination. Deuterogamy, it is somewhat modified self-pollination. The transfer of pollen grains is from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of the same plant. Means there is no genetic variation. There is no genetic variation. For example, in cucurbits, pumpkin, bottle gourd, or other type of such plants where male and female flowers are formed separately on the same plant. If pollen of the male flower reaches the stigma of the another flower, female flower of the same plant, such conditions are the deuterogamy. It is still self-pollination. Xenogamy or the allogamy, here the transfer of pollen grains is from anther of one flower to stigma of another flower of different plant. Remember here plant is changed, means genetic combination may be different, separate. For example, papaya, maize, it is a typical example of cross pollination. Sometimes pollen grains from different species may reach the stigma and process is completed but no fertilization because the species is different. There are the special type of conditions or special types of flowers regarding the pollination. We will recall them also, we will learn them also. Some plants such as viola, common pansy flower, oxalis and commelina, they produce 2 type of flowers. one chasmogamous flowers and there is the clistogamous flowers. Chasmogamous flowers are open, exposed anthers, having exposed anthers and a stigma. In them there is a cross pollination possible. Whereas clistogamous flowers, they do not open at all, they are closed one. The self pollination is possible in such flowers. The anthers and stigma lie close to each other. When anther dehisces in the flower bud, pollen grains come in contact with the stigma to effect ensured pollination, that is the self pollination. Now there are the different agencies of pollination. We will come to this subtopic, that is the agents of pollination. Plants use two abiotic agents, wind and water, and one biotic agent, that is the animals. The plants are adapted for each type of agency. Means if it is the water as an agent, pollen must not be degraded, disintegrate by water. If it is wind pollinated, the pollens should be lighter, and so on. So we'll study one by one the special adaptability of such plants for specific pollination. The first one is the adaptation for wind pollination. It is also known as anemophily. Wind pollination is also called as anemophily, and flowers are the anemophilous flowers. The form of pollination in which wind distributes the pollens is called anemophily. Pollen grains are light in weight, non-sticky, dry and winged. All these help them to glide, rather fly in the wind. They can be easily transported. If they are heavier, they will settle down. If they are lighter, they will move for longer time in the air. Well exposed stamens for easy dispersal of pollens. Anther lobes are well exposed. Generally, they are versatile, so that when dehiscence occurs, pollens may be transported by wind current. So, well exposed stamens for easy dispersal of pollen grains in the wind is another adaptation. The stigma is sticky, large and feathery to trap pollen grains floating in the air. If you look at the hair-like structure in the corn flower, maize cob, this is the feathery stigma, nothing else. It is sticky also. Whenever pollen touch it, get stuck over it. Numerous flowers are packed together to form inflorescence. If you see, there is a large number of flowers in a cob length, one cob, or the maize plant apex shows the number of male flowers. So, in such plants, smaller size flowers, they are in close appearance, that is the inflorescence. This helps them ensure pollination. Now you can see this is the one of the example, wind pollinated plant showing the compact inflorescence and well exposed stamens. Now adaptation for water pollination or the hydrophily. The form of pollination in which pollens are distributed by water is called hydrophily, and flowers are hydrophilous flowers. It is very common in lower organisms, lower plants like the algae, bryophyte, pteridophytes, but in some of the angiosperm, water pollination has been very frequent or necessary, compulsory. For example, Vallisneria and Hydrilla are submerged freshwater hydrophytes in which hydrophily is observed. Now there is no chance of other agencies to facilitate this pollination, only water can. In sea grasses, female flowers are submerged in water to receive pollen grains for pollination inside water. Pollens are generally long, needle-like or ribbon-shaped, are carried passively inside the water. Not all aquatic plants use water for pollination, remember it. There are so many water plants which do not use water as an agent for pollination. If you look at the Terror of Bengal, that is the water hyacinth, water lily, lotus, a number of water plants, they produce flowers above the water level. So insects or wind act as a pollinating agent in such flowers. In hydrophilous flowers, pollen grains are protected from wetting by the presence of mucilaginous covering. Otherwise, will be difficult for them to be transported through water. Now come to the adaptation of insect pollination, entomophily. The form of pollination in which insects distribute pollens is called entomophily. Flowers are large, they are of generally big size, conspicuous, brightly colored. The small flowers get added to give the appearance of big flowers. For example, sunflower, marigold. They have fragrance and nectar glands which are highly insect attractant. Insects are attracted because of the fragrance or the nectar present in them. The pollen grain surface is sticky due to exine layer and stigma is sticky due to mucilaginous secretion. The pollen grains easily stuck to the body of insects and hence are transported from one flower to other. The flowers offer floral reward like nectar and excess pollen grains for pollination to insect. The flowers sometimes secrete foul odor to attract insects like flies and beetles. You might have read about the Rafflesia, the largest flower. They produce foul smell. In some species, floral rewards provide safe place to lay eggs. For example, Amorphophallus. Are you surprised? Its flower size is almost 6 feet height. This is the high degree of relationship between plant species and the animal species, insect species. A similar relationship exists between a species of moth and the plant yucca, where both species, moth and the plant, cannot complete their life cycles without each other. The moth deposits its eggs in the locules of the ovary, and the flower in turn gets pollinated by the moth. The larvae of the moth come out of the eggs as the seeds start developing. Many insects may consume pollen or the nectar without bringing about pollination. Such floral visitors are referred to as pollen or nectar robbers. This is the drawback of the system. You might have seen the fig. In Hindi we call as the gular. If you open the ripened fruits of fig, you will see large number of insects comes out of that. Actually, story begins some months back when Hypanthodium, that is the inflorescence of the fig family, provides the scope for the development of the egg of insect. The insect, with the help of its ovipositor, lay eggs inside hypanthodium, and doing so they carry the pollens from one hypanthodium to the another hypanthodium. Now the egg